let's talk about flowers. Flowers. Aren't they so beautiful? Flowers. The song by Miley Cyrus. Those are the flowers I want to talk about. Flowers is this song by Miley Cyrus, and I love it. I love Miley Cyrus. Big fan of her work. But to me, what I've observed, or my opinion, is that Flowers is the biggest banger post-COVID. Now, let me kind of explain how I've derived this conclusion. Culture is created, mainly it comes from youth. Youth create culture. And today, young Americans are coming from Generation Z, and they were born post-2000, post-millennium. And much of their experience, first, I love Gen Z. I think they have a lot of potential. Their experience comes from this digital world that we live in. Whereas millennials kind of cross this bridge between the analog and digital world. Generation Z is kind of the first generation born and raised and experienced solely digital, right? So music reflects culture and a generation. And I personally don't listen to the radio. I listen on Spotify, and I'm usually sticking within my range. I don't really go out and discover new stuff, but I hear with friends around me, and also working at a bar and a restaurant, I hear what other people are experiencing. But if you look at, say, a top 40 radio station, or let's say the top songs in the US, this chart, right? You can get a sense of the vibration of a generation, right? The songs that are popular are reflective of young individuals. So Flowers is on there. It's this big hit. But if you go through what I've noticed, so I've noticed some patterns with Generation Z and attitudes and vibes and thoughts in a way. If you play the top 30 songs, 40 songs, the rhythm or beats are pretty, I don't want to say flat, but they're very like either chill or melancholy, or there's not too much range. And there's kind of this like sadness or this kind of darker cloud with the music. Now, I bartend on Friday nights, and our demographic is typically, it's kind of in that Gen Z range. It's like 26 and younger in a way. It's like young professionals. And you know what people want to listen to when they want to have a good time? They don't listen to contemporary music. Often, there's almost like this nostalgia. And so I created this playlist called Bangers Are Us. And it's songs, just like really upbeat songs from, say, the window of 2008 to like 2015, within this range. You'll have your Avicii, Calvin Harris, Black Eyed Peas, Lady Gaga, Ariana Grande. The list goes on, but it's just upbeat, fun, and I feel like music doesn't really reflect that tone right now in 2023. It seems to be kind of sad, melancholy, kind of depressive, moody, which again reflects culture, which culture is reflective of younger generations. And so if you, again, go through this list, they're all kind of melancholy. They're not exactly hopeful or inspiring or upbeat in a way. And it kind of reflects my observations of a generation that has experienced life in the world through mainly a digital presence. And then on top of that, experiencing youth during COVID and kind of shutting off this social release or vacuum or environment. So you have a generation of young individuals experiencing kind of these, all this information coming at them immediately, and the psychology is reflective of the digital age in a way. And I think it's really interesting. And Generation Z might be the first generation that doesn't have mainstream stars. And what I mean by that is because media and culture has become decentralized. So there's all these different, people go to all these different sources to find entertainment and news and things like that, that there's not this monolith culture that creates or stars kind of pop out from, right? Think of a movie star under the age of 25. Who is the biggest star that everyone would know across generations, right? You can't name too many. I've posed this question to coworkers and friends. Zendaya is one that comes up. I believe Billie Eilish is the biggest star of Gen Z. Big fan of Billie Eilish. Super talented. And it's interesting how she came up. It's organically. That is kind of the idealized image of what is possible in the 21st century, right? You emerge and become successful on talent. I don't want to say itself, but talent shines through. If you put it out there, you imagine the best will rise to the top. Whereas before, you have the Disneys and the just pop star kind of pipeline. And hers seems to be very organic and authentic. And people really respond to that. And she certainly has like a certain image that seems to go along with this characteristic of Gen Z, a little sad and moody and depressive, but also there's this inner light that is there, but just needs to kind of be released or shown in a way. So when young individuals want to experience music that's more upbeat and more hopeful and fun, there seems to be this going back, this nostalgia for millennial music and 90s music. So it's interesting to observe. Now, these are just observations and notes that I've made, but I think the song Flowers, again, Flowers, is the first kind of, the words aren't necessarily upbeat and hopeful, but they're more reflective of the generation, right? I can buy myself flowers. I can write my name in the sand. It's saying I can be alone and still love myself and be myself. I don't necessarily need someone, which seems to be a message of the 21st century that's, of course, on the internet so much and prevalent in culture. But there's the beat of it is kind of inspiring and fun and catchy. And if you go through the top songs on Spotify, not many other songs have that feel. Like this feel, and this feel is reflective of the psychology of younger generations. So that's something that's just on my mind. Flowers. The world is more beautiful with flowers.